morning, everybody. Hopefully, you're having a little better weather than we are. Unfortunately, yeah, we have a large thunderstorm going on, so I'm going to apologize ahead of time if you hear a lot of background noise. It's a pretty good one. The sky got really black, of course, right before my webinar. It's always like that. So thanks so much for joining me today. Grab a cup of coffee. We got two more people just logging in at this point, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. First and foremost, thank you so much for joining me. My name is Colleen Delange. A little bit about myself is I have been a realtor myself using these products for 23 years now. Boy, it makes me feel old when I say it like that. But I'm really here to show you some time-saving tips and techniques when you want to list a new property, where you basically start. I'm going to walk you through finding comparables that are going to be like comparables. We're going to jump into from there using the easy button to send everything to CloudCMA. And then from there, I'm going to show you a couple quick tips in using some of the Paragon reports, as well as the new interactive features of CloudCMA. I have to be honest, some of the new interactive features I absolutely love, and it's been a long time coming, so I'm glad that they're here. But in some of the new cloud features in the interactive side, you can actually pull in properties on the fly. So let's say for a moment that David is sitting next to his seller. David was all prepared to go on his listing appointment. He pulled everything up, got all of his comps together 2 days ago. And the seller says, well, what about Tom? He just told me he closed yesterday. David can actually click one button, bring in that other comp so that he can add that to his CMA on the fly. You can make adjustments on the fly. It also allows you to see if a comparable you selected may have less or more square footage, maybe why it closed for more or less. But you can do all of that on the fly, which is something that we've wanted to do for quite some time now. So basically, what we're doing today is we're going to go through the process from beginning to end. And I wish I could be standing in front of you doing this, but I want to make it as interactive as possible. So feel free to type your questions in the questions box. And where you're going to find that today is in your GoToWebinar panel, which is generally right now minimized at the right-hand side of your screen. If you click on that orange or orange-red arrow, it will open up that GoToWebinar panel, and there you'll be able to go in and ask your questions. You'll find a questions box. Or you can simply throw up your hand. There's a little hand icon next to your name, and that will alert me that you have a question. So just a few of us on the call, so let's go ahead and get started. So where do you start when you're preparing for a CMA? So for me, I want to actually start at the beginning. I want to be able to quickly pull in if the property has closed before. I want to pull up that MLS ticket. I want to add that into my CMA. I want to have all the tax information. So I want to have the BS&A record. And I also like to look at the realist record too. And I'm going to tell you what the differences are when you're preparing for your CMA. I like to pull in both. So let's go ahead and start off with a couple examples. And again, I apologize for the thunder that you keep hearing in the background. I'm not a storm person, so just so you know. So if you see me jump every once in a while, it's just because we're having a pretty good thunderstorm here. All right, so I'm going to start off with a property. I'm going to show you a couple different examples today, but I'm going to start off with where do you start when you're looking for information on the property? In my CMA, I want to show my seller. I have to be honest, I'm not tooting my own horn. I lose very few listing appointments that I go on, and I don't do a ton of business. I think I sold like 6 or 7 houses this year. But for me, when I go on a listing appointment, I want to make sure that I have everything that I need in my CMA. And I want to show that seller that I have all of my homework done. I want to have the tax records with me. I want to have the previous sale information. I want to have market stats so I can show them what's going on in their marketplace. I want to have all of that in my CMA. I'm kind of a huge Floyd Wickman fan. If anybody knows who he is, probably most people won't, but I'm a huge Floyd Wickman fan. He was a big real estate coach in the 80s, and he said, if you're going to waste somebody's time, By not being prepared at the kitchen table with your CMA, that's exactly what you're doing. You're wasting their time. So I want to have everything I need with me to get that listing when I sit down with that seller. I want to have the paperwork prepared. I want to have all the data. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go into the MLS. The MLS, we have at least 15 years of history in ours. We actually don't purge any records, so we go back further than even that. But I want to be able to pull all of that previous history of when that property closed. So I'm going to give you a good example of one that I closed not that long ago. When I'm starting, I want to go up to this power search and I just want to type in the address. That's going to pull up that record. It's going to show me when it last closed. So this is the last time that it closed. And the first thing I want to do is I want to go into the tax information. So yes, I want to save this. And what I generally do is I will hit a save and save it as a PDF, or actually I'll probably print it as a PDF right from here so that I have a copy of this right on my desktop so I can pull that in. So you can print it as a PDF if you choose, but I basically want to save this listing so that I can pull it into my CMA. One of the advantages of being a MiRealSource member is that you're also, if you are a MiRealSource member, you can access the Realist record right from the actual MLS ticket. But being a MiRealSource member, we do something extra. The BS&A record, which is the actual municipality record for the property, is located right here. And I apologize, I always give Brian a little bit of ribbing. It kind of looks like a garbage can, if you will. It's actually not a garbage can. It's supposed to be a government pillar. But when Brian, our chief technical officer, when he put it on the button to make it easy, kind of took that pillar down to kind of what looks like, I think, a trash can. We give him a lot of ribbing about it. But that's actually where you can find the BS&A record for this property. So you're probably thinking, well, Colleen, what's the difference between BS&A and Realist? So BS&A is the trusted record. If you were ever in a legal situation or a legal dispute, the BS&A is the one that the judge is going to look at. Because what BS&A actually is it's the trusted municipality record. Now, what we do different than many other MLSs is we use the live BS&A record. That means, let's say that, oh, I see Robin Barnes just joined us. Hello, Robin. Let's say that Robin is getting ready to go to a closing tomorrow. And she realizes, oh, geez, there are some outstanding taxes due on this property. Robin's clients can actually go down to the municipality office, pay it, and because we use that live server, you're going to see that information right away. Many of the other MLSs, matter of fact, I think all of the other MLSs that provide BS&A use a feed, and that means that it could take 48 hours for that information to be updated, where we use that live municipality server. BS&A really is the trusted record. It's going to be where the assessor's hitting the paid button. It is for 90% of the state. You're going to be able to go in and find those BS&A records by simply clicking on that little trash can that you see here. Now, what we do as a member benefit, if you are a MiRealSource member, we wanted to find a way to give back to our members. So if you are looking in Macomb County, Genesee County, and now very recently we've just added St. Clair. If you are looking in any of those counties or the 5 Grosse Pointes, whether it's Grosse Pointe Park, Grosse Pointe Woods, the city of Grosse Pointe, if you are looking in the Grosse Pointes, Macomb County, St. Clair County, or Genesee County, we actually pay your bill for you when it comes to BS&A. So let me explain. As long as you're going through this blue trash can looking icon, if you will, as long as you're using the BS&A button in those counties and in the Grosse Pointes, we'll actually get that bill on your behalf and pay it as a member benefit. And I know it's only between actually it's going up to $6 next month, we just found out. But if you are, let's say, looking for a couple properties a year, those $3 and now $6 start to add up very quickly. And so what we do is when you go through our link as a member benefit, that bill actually gets sent to us. So you don't have to pull out your credit card. It'll take you directly there and it will actually send us the bill on your behalf. So it was a way that we could give back to our members. So simply clicking in, and I apologize for all the thunder and lightning you're probably hearing outside my window. Can you hear it's like really, really pouring? But when you click on that blue trash can icon, you can see immediately it takes me into that municipality record. And you're going to see when the year built was, how many bedrooms, how many full baths, how many half baths, if it has acreage. Many of the municipalities now even include unpaid water bills, or actually the water bill record. And I say that because I just recently listed a home in Redford and Warren that had huge outstanding water bills. And this particular home in Warren was only a $75,000 home. So when you have $1,000, unpaid water bill, you certainly want to add that into your net out, right? Because water is obviously attached to the property. So unpaid taxes, same thing, listed a condo in Clinton Township with $7,000 worth of unpaid taxes. Those are all things you're going to want to configure into your net out when you're doing your CMA. So those are all things that you want to make sure you're saving and again, pulling into your CMA. All right, so right here, I'm going to give you your first time-saving tip. There is a public records photo that appears right here on the BS&A record. I like to save that photo and use it as the front cover of my CMA. Now, you should not be saving photos from the MLS because there's a lot of copyright lawsuits going on right now. And basically, whoever clicks the shutter on the camera that takes that photo actually owns the copyright to that photo. We have a great copyright class going on right now that I recommend you take. Just had Flo Abke in it the other day, and she said, oh my gosh, I learned so much. It's a great way to make sure you're protecting yourself, especially if you have a photographer taking your photos. So definitely take that with our attorney, Tim Myers and Taylor. It's being offered several times this month, but it's a really good class. But when you're taking a look at your CMA, you want to wow your seller, right? You want to make them see that beautiful front cover of the home. You want to have all of the data. And that's why starting with the BS&A record and the Realist record, it's giving you the information on the property. Now, the next thing that we want to do is we want to save this or print it. I'm just going to hit print. I'm going to save this as a PDF onto my desktop. Because what I want to do is I want to make sure that I have this record so I can pull it into my CMA. Another quick tip is not only do you want the BS&A record to show where you got the information from when you were looking for comps, but you also might want to take a look at that front photo. As I mentioned, I want to have this right on the cover of my CMA. It certainly looks a lot nicer than a Google overhead shot. Now, of course, you can take your own photo. That's obviously preferred. But if you're like me and you're a busy mom working full-time at the MLS and selling a few properties as well, sometimes you're looking for those easy shortcuts. So using something like this as your cover, what I generally will do is I will save that image. I usually save it I'm going to save it to my desktop here. And we're just going to say new home image. I usually put the address in, but this way I'll remember to delete it when we're all done today. And I now want to use that as my front cover on my CMA. And I'm going to show you how to pull that in just a moment. Why the BS&A record, again, is so helpful is it's going to show you not only the information for taxes. Again, many of them will include unpaid water bills, taxes, or assessments that are due on the property. It'll show you things like our frontage and our lot size, all stuff that you're going to need to add in when you're putting your listing into the MLS as well. It's also going to show you who owns that property. It'll show you some sales history. But I like this because it's also showing me, oh, it's built on a basement. It has a two-car garage. And all of that detail is listed here. Is the basement finished or unfinished? What is the garage size? When was the home built? What's the structure of the home? All of that is listed right here. So this is really where I want to start. All right, so I'm going to jump back to Paragon for a moment. We got this, remember, directly from the listing ticket. So I did not have to pay for that record. So if that municipality does charge, again, if you're in St. Clair, Genesee, Macomb County, or if you're in the Grosse Pointes, you don't have to pay that fee. We pay that on your behalf. If I also want to check the realist record, and I add both, I'm going to be honest, I put both of those into my CMA. If I want to now check the realist record, I'm going to click that red dot that you just saw, and that's going to take me into the realist report. I like to actually add both of these. And some people say, why? You know, BSNA is the one you really need. But sometimes it will show discrepancies. Many times, and I recently had this happen, where it will say MLS 1, or it'll say tax something different. And what that allows you to do is realize that there's a discrepancy somewhere. So let me give you a couple examples. So BSNA, again, is that trusted assessor link. It's what the city says about the property. They hit save. That's what you're seeing. And that's really the best one. Realist, though, is a combined source from the MLS and from the tax source. So if there's a discrepancy, like this home I listed in Sterling Heights, the municipality, this is a kind of a funny, and it's a true story. You can't make these things up in real estate, right? The municipality record said that it was 1 story, but clearly the MLS had it listed as a 2-story. I could see in the MLS that it was a 2-story home. So I was kind of a little baffled, like, how could that be? Pulled up in front of the home. It was an expired listing. Someone had listed it for 3 months before I took it, and thankfully it did close. But when I pulled up in front, it clearly was a 2-story. So I asked the homeowner, you know, the municipality says that it's 1 story, and clearly it's a 2-story home. Do you know why that is? And he said, oh, yeah. I actually own a dormer company, and I put that 2nd level on. And I said, oh, great. Did you pull a permit, or did you get that from, you know, anything from the city? And he said, oh, no, I never did. So these are great questions to ask. It also, again, by having that record in there, if there's a discrepancy on maybe what they feel the square footage is, you can actually show where you've got that. So I like to include both of those. It'll also show foreclosure history. It'll show if they recently refied. You know, so you'll be able to see that. So if they just bought last year and they already maybe took a home equity loan on it, and you're getting ready to list it, with the prices being so high right now, they may be upside down in the house, and you may have to kind of justify that and put that into their net out. So these are great tools to use and research before you're meeting with that seller, so you know what questions you want to ask. So again, I include this record. I include the BSNA record. I print this so that I have it as a PDF. There is a little print button. You may not see it. Your Zoom, or I'm sorry, your GoToWebinar panel may be covering it. But right up here to the top, if you click print, you can actually print this as a PDF. And again, I want to pull that directly into my CMA. Okay, so again, all you have to do is click the print button. It creates a PDF for you. Oops, I have another PDF open here. Let me close this out. And it will allow you to now pull those in. So I can pull in my realist report. I can pull all of that data in very quickly. So hopefully that kind of helps there. All right. So jumping back to Paragon. So now we're building our research. Of course, these are usually questions that you're asking your homeowner too when you're talking to them, you know, on the phone, getting prepared for your listing appointment. But now I've got the information I need. Now I want to go in and I actually want to do my search for comparables. So the first place I want to start, so I'm going to go ahead and close this out. I want to start doing a search, and I want to obviously make it comparable to the subject property. So I want to compare basically apples to apples, right? I'm not going to compare a 1,000 square foot brick ranch to a 5,000 square foot colonial. Wouldn't make any sense, right? So what are those parameters? What are you looking for when you are trying to find like comparables? I'm going to give you the general specifics today, you know, like what should your square footage range be? I mean, do you compare 1,000 to 5,000? What's the cutoff? So I'm going to give you some of those helpful things that you're going to need to know today. But keep in mind, I'm kind of doing this very generic today. Obviously, you want to see your broker. If you come across a home that's difficult, there are some homes, in Harrison Township that are kind of difficult to comp because you've got shack, $1 million home, shack, waterfront home, so you sometimes do have to go outside the parameters that I'm going to give you. Or if you're in a rural area, happen to be on the border of Richmond and St. Clair, and sometimes you've got one house for a 4 mile square, block. And so how do you comp those? So I'm going to give you the generics today, but keep in mind, sometimes you have to open up that circle a little. And if you're in a rural area, or if you're in a there are certain subs where it's new construction and old construction combined. I'm going to show you some tips for that. But keep in mind, if you are struggling, don't be afraid to reach out to your broker. You can obviously reach out to us at MiRealSource, and we can give you some helpful hints. But I'm going to give you the generic version today. So we're going to start by going to search and simply finding the type of home that you're going to list. So if I'm listing a single family home, I'm going to go under search by class, and I'm going to click on residential. And I'm now going to start filling in the information for my comparables. If you joined us a little late, we had a few people hop on. Feel free to type in any and all your questions in that GoToWebinar questions box. It's actually probably minimized right now at the right-hand side of your screen. But if you click open that box, you can go down to questions and type in any question. If I've missed something or you need some clarification on it, just put it in that questions box and it'll alert me right away. Okay. All right. So the first thing I want to start filling in is what kind of comparables am I looking for? I know we have 3 or 4 people that are brand new on our call today. So welcome aboard. I know 2 of them are coming from other MLSs. So if you don't know what goes into a particular field, you can always click on the button to the right, which is the magnifying glass, and it's going to show you all of your options. So I've also added some helpful fields. Remember that that's the cool thing about Paragon. I got a call late last night from an agent who was trying to find comps in Detroit, which is why zip code is right here. And she said, you know what, Colleen, Detroit is so big. And when I'm trying to kind of find comps, or I'm trying to find, is there a way to narrow it down to zip code? And the answer is absolutely. You can add in those helpful fields. So if you don't have zip code and you think it would be helpful in your business, you can always go to customize, add in a particular field, and basically think of it this way. Every field that you have in your search criteria right now is right here in your selected fields. But if there's something, let's use zip code as an example. Let's say that you don't have zip code and you think, geez, you know what, that would be really helpful. Or you don't have a particular field that you think would be helpful. All you have to do is go to your find box, type in a keyword like zip for zip code, and you can go ahead and hit add. Not only can you add these things, but you can drag and drop them into whatever place you want them. So if you don't want zip code at the top, maybe you want it, a little further down below. Well, don't worry. You can actually drag and drop them into your specific order that you want. I have a little OCD, so I kind of like everything in my order. And as you can see, it's now moved zip code from the top more to the bottom, and that way it's exactly where you want it. So don't be afraid to move those things around or add specific fields that you think would be helpful. All right, so kind of going down our list quickly, I'm obviously going to put in that I'm looking for what property sold for. Don't really care what they rented for because we're going to tell them what the home value is. What are you looking for? Well, of course, in comps, we want to find something that closed. That's the big key. But being an old Floyd Wickman fan, and again, maybe probably most people on this call don't know who that is, but he was a big, funny real estate coach in the 80s. And he always would say, Colleen, if you're going to sit at someone's kitchen table, they already know what's active. And you better have those actives in your CMA because they're watching their neighborhood and they believe that you know everything that's actively listed in their neighborhood. You also obviously want to find pending. We want to know if, their competition is pending and what they were listed at. And not so much right now, but in when the market shifts, I should say, sometimes you also may need to talk someone off the ledge. And what I mean by that is you may have a seller down the road who says, you know, Colleen, I know you say the house is worth 250, but I think we want to try 350 and we'll just lower the price if it doesn't work out. In those markets, it might also be helpful to have one expired listing that maybe was listed for, let's say, way higher. Maybe it was on the market for 200 or 300 days. You can see they've had multiple price reductions. It may be really helpful to point that out to the seller. Well, I know, Mr. Schmagegi, you feel like that. And Joe over here in the corner, he felt like he wanted to try it at a higher price first too. And you can see he's been listed for 300 days and he's actually had 4 price reductions and the listing is stale. So don't be afraid to have, and even if you don't put it in your CMA, it's not a bad idea to have an expired listing hanging out in your bag just in case you need to pull it out. So not so much in this market, but as the market turns or shifts, you may want to come up with a few ideas to keep them from overpricing their homes. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put in my statuses: closed, active, pending. I'm also going to pick in my date range that I want to go 6 months back. Now, I'm going to be honest, that's why they love and hate me, right? I'm going to tell you what I like and don't like. I hate these stupid MLS calendars. You got to click into the calendar. You got to count 6 months back. You got to go to the next one, click on the date, count it. Just use the easy drop downs. 6 months back is what appraisers are generally looking at in this crazy market. So that's what I want to have here. Now, I don't know the price, but I don't want to put my price in because that's what I'm trying to determine right now, right? So I'm going to leave that blank. But I do know that it is a 1-story home. It is a brick ranch. So that's the kind of comparables I'm looking for. Don't necessarily in this market think I would put in brick because, as you I'm sure know, there's not a lot on the market at this point. And so I want to make sure I'm keeping it open enough that I'm going to get enough comparables to work for. All right, so I'm going to jump down now to 1-story structure style. How many bedrooms does this home have? I'm going to say 3, but again, there may not be a ton on the market right here, so I'm going to look at 3 to 4. What are your bathrooms? Well, maybe maybe it's a 1.5. I could be more specific. I could go to a field called full baths and half baths. Or I could say, you know, it's 1.5. I'm going to look at 1 to 2 just to make sure I get enough comps and I can always go through them. Does it have a basement? Yes, of course, I want my comp to have a basement because that's going to bring more value. Does it have a garage? Yes, you can even put the number of car garage. But in this market, again, not being a lot on the market, I'm probably going to keep it a little more generic. All right, so square footage. So when you're talking about square footage, what is the range? Where does the cutoff go? So most appraisers, and I think I've asked about 10 or 15 different appraisers over the last few years, they use that 20% square footage rule. Now, keep in mind, there are some exceptions. If you're listing on waterfront, if you're listing in rural areas, sometimes that is different. There's not enough to actually use as viable comps. So that can create a little bit of difference. But in the area that we're doing our search for right now, I can tell you that really what we're going to be looking for is that 20% square footage rule. So how do you figure that out? So basically, when I went to our BS&A record, I could see right here, and I'm going to use my calculator because I am not that great with math, to be totally honest, that I can whip that off in my head. But the square footage total on this home is 1361. So I'm going to take that, times it by the 20%, which comes out to 272 square feet. So I'm going to take my 1361 and I'm going to add that. So it comes out to about 1600. So when I'm figuring out my square footage range, say, well, my top end is going to be 1600. I'm going to take that same number now, that 1361, minus the 270. And so that comes out to about 1050. That's actually figuring out my square footage range that I want to stay in. That's what an appraiser is going to use. So that's the guidelines I want to stay in as well. All right. Generally, here, I am not going to use features, especially in this market. I'm not a big fan of using features when you're doing a CMA. One, in this market, there's not enough inventory. And two, I hate to say this, but the average agent is filling in just the required fields into the MLS, which is unfortunate because if you've got a home with multiple fireplaces and you're trying to comp it with a beautiful historic home with multiple fireplaces and the agent never bothered to check that feature, now you're looking for a feature that could actually cost you a viable comp. So I don't recommend using any types of features when you're actually doing a CMA. All right, so we're going to jump back up to the top. Now you're probably thinking, Colleen, lady with the fuzzy hair, you've got 4,910 comps. And quite honestly, you'd be there for several months presenting your CMA. Well, that's because we haven't put in our most important feature, which is location, 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 right? But I want to do what an appraiser is going to do. So just putting in a city is not going to be helpful. It's going to return more comps and not accurate comps. What's an appraiser going to do? They're going to look for, in this case, a comp within a mile of the subject property. So that's what I want to do too. So where we're going to do that is right in the map. And I'm going to show you a couple really cool features. I'm going to show you something I just learned thanks to a great call with Flo Apke, who's a friend of mine. She brought up a couple of good things and she's like, you should show that in your class. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into the map. When I'm trying to use my map, the first thing you're going to notice is, and I apologize with the storm, our internet's a little bit slower than usual, but what you're going to notice when it comes to the mapping is when you open up that map, the first thing that you see, and probably the thing I get the most questions on, is why is that red X there? Well, it basically opens up to your office location. So what the MLS knows was your office. If you wanted to open up somewhere else, you can go into preferences. You could put in your home address, or if you're working on the other side of town, you could put an address there so that it opens there. But basically, when your map opens up, the key to finding comps for this subject property is to go right up to this top bar here where it says center map, because this is where I want my map to be centered. Now, this is an important step, and a lot of people miss this. So I want you to pay special attention here. Maybe take a note. When you're typing in the address, it uses Google Maps. So this happens to be Wessel Drive. Leave off the drives, the ways, the places, the courts, the avenues. I promise you it will be much faster and more accurate if you simply put in the route street name, comma, the city. So I'm going to do 41539 Wessel, comma, the city. And you always want to do this in 2 steps. Here's where you want to take the note. A lot of people will put the address in, go over here, search miles, and then it doesn't find the address first. That can be a problem. So what you want to do is you want to search by clicking on the magnifying glass, relocate to where that subject property is. Now, I want to say, I want to find comps within 1 mile of that subject property. So what I just did, go ahead, is I just created that 1 mile radius. But I want to show you some cool things you can do with this. So I've created my 1 mile radius, and as you can see, my comps are starting to flow in here. And if you see this number, it's just where 2 flags were very close to each other. And so it doesn't want to put the flag right on top of the other one, because then if you click on it, you can't get to it, right? So these are just clusters. If you zoom in, it will break that cluster apart for you. As you can see, if I zoom in really close to that too. But basically what I like to do is I simply just want to click on that too. It's going to show me those 2 properties right over here. And I can actually jump right into the listing ticket by clicking on it. So it just kind of makes it a little bit easier when you're navigating it. If you are one-stepping your listing, I'm going to use Robin Barnes for a moment. She lists all over the place. She's a great listing agent. So if she wants to one-step, let's say she's going to list her uncle's cabin up north. She's not going to probably want to drive 3 hours up there and, then drive 3 hours back to prepare her CMA. So here's a little tip. And we see this on everything, but very few of us actually use it. If you go over here to the right, there's this little yellow Google man. See this little guy? If you kind of want to check out the neighborhood without driving 3 hours up to Uncle's cabin, you can actually grab that little yellow Google man and you can set him right in front of the listing, and you can walk down the street. You can see the property to the left. You can see the property to the right. And as you can see, I'm literally walking through this neighborhood without having to be there. Now you're probably thinking, well, where is where is that subject property? Well, right here, you can see the pin is placed right on your subject property. By the way, that house I was telling you with the dormer on top, it's actually this one right next door. So long story short, if you want to view the properties, you kind of want to walk the neighborhood. Your buyers, by the way, can do this too. If you set them up in the collab center, they can literally walk the neighborhood right through the collab center, which I love. They can literally walk down every street in the neighborhood. So I kind of like to get a kind of a bird's eye view of what the neighborhood looks like. But now let's use Robin again. So let's pretend for a moment that Robin has been on a listing frenzy. And I'm just going to give you an example, so you're going to have to pretend with me. I have a 10-year-old at home, so we do a lot of role playing and pretending here. So we're going to pretend that this Clinton River right here, we're going to pretend that that is actually lakefront property. Okay, we're going to say Robin Barnes has been hard at work. She has 3 $1 million listings along the lake. It's gorgeous. But we're listing a little brick ranch off the water. So although we're excited for Robin, who's doing all this listing, I don't want her listings, her fancy listings, messing up my little house that's 10 streets off the water, right? And if I left all her fancy listings in, that's exactly what would happen. So what if your 1 mile circle includes waterfront? How do you make sure you're not pulling in 20 waterfront properties that have really no value in your CMA? Let me show you a little tip. You're really going to go up to these drawing tools up here at the top. And I prefer the polygon, but you could use whatever you like. I'm going to say, you know, Robin, this $3 million listing you have and these $1 million listings that you've worked so hard on the waterfront, I want to remove them from my CMA. So we're gonna look at this 274 one. We're going to pretend this is like her $3 million listing. And basically, I'm going to draw the waterfront because I do not want any of those listings messing up my number. So we're going to now say, and you're probably thinking, oh, lady with the fuzzy hair, that just made more area, didn't it? You're right. One more step. You're actually going to go to edit, and you're going to change that from includes, this little checkbox, to excludes. You can also use that tip when you're working with a buyer. If you have a buyer, like I have a lot of buyers that will say, I want to live in Warren, but I basically, we call it the golden triangle anymore. I want to live in this particular area. I don't want to be south of here, and I kind of really like this area. And so you can actually, you could do Warren and you could exclude an area. Or again, you could draw the triangle that you want. You can even save it as a search. You can do all of that. But I kind of like to show this example because it just kind of, especially in waterfront, those numbers are, I wish you did too. I just got your message, Robin. She says, I need a few more $1 million houses. Yes, Robin, I think we both do. I'd like a few of those. My Redford house, definitely not the example I'd like to show today, but thank you for saying that. You made me smile. Okay, so if you want to exclude Robin's $3 million listings, that's how you're going to do it. There are certain subs. I went on a listing appointment not too long ago in Milford. The sub was, half of the sub was 1930. The other half was new construction. So if I brought them all in, the comps are going to be way wrong, right? So I simply excluded the older section of the homes that fell in my subdivision in that 1 mile. So really easy to do that. Couple other examples here that I thought would be helpful, especially if you're working that Harrison Township, New Baltimore area, if you're working maybe that Chesterfield area, if you're working more, again, kind of following the lakes, or even in Clinton Township. Even this is the reason I use this property so often. And I know Chris Nixon, who's on the call, is probably like, this property, again, she uses it all the time. And it's just because it has really good examples like the one I'm going to show you. Let's say Robin's working with a buyer, and he is telling Robin, you know what, flood insurance is really expensive this year, Robin. I don't want to see a lot of houses where I'm going to need flood insurance, but I do want to live in Harrison Township. Where should we be looking? Well, when you're drawing out your buyer maps, there's a good way to see that. You can actually go to these layers right here, and I can say, okay, I want to add in the FEMA floodplains. So now here's the trick with this. I'm adding it in, but I do want to zoom in. And do you see what just happened? Robin can now tell her buyer. Now, I always preface this. This is not like having an elevation cert. This is not the gospel according to the flood insurance. This is where visual indicators from the FEMA maps are saying that you would probably need to look and see if you needed flood insurance. So again, we want to ask the lender. I'm not saying it's an elevation cert or anything like that. I'm just saying it's a good visual indicator of maybe where you want to stay away from properties if you don't want to pay flood insurance. So really, really easy. Other little tips I just like to show in the map, and they're not just specific to listings, but obviously they help with buyers as well, is I got a call not that long ago from, as I mentioned, Flo Abke, and I thought, God, that is a really good example that she brought up, and I'm going to show it. So if you are we'll flip this, and we'll say Robin in this case is working with a buyer, and that buyer maybe is a volunteer firefighter for a particular city. And Robin's trying to draw out, okay, he wants to live around here, but she knows he specifically has to live within the municipality of, let's say, Utica. Okay, maybe he's a Utica volunteer. I don't even know if they have volunteer firefighters. I do in my town, so kind of a good example. But let's say that Robin is working with this buyer, and he says to Robin, I got to live within the municipality because we're volunteers and we have to be there at a minute's notice. And so Robin's trying to map the area he likes, but she doesn't want to show him a street outside of the Utica boundary because he can't live there, right? So this was what I found really interesting. If you simply apply the municipality, and this was Flo Abke's example exactly, if you apply the municipality layer, you really easily can see that. And by the way, if you label it, which by just clicking on the on is the labeling, it'll even label where those city lines start and stop for you. So when you are trying to draw the exact area for your buyers, this can be very helpful too. So I just thought I'd show that because a lot of people don't know it's there. And I'm like, geez, you know what? That's a good way to kind of put that in there. Of course, you can add in things like school districts, attendance zones. Maybe they want to live in Grosse Pointe and they want their kids to go to Grosse Pointe North. How can you see that very quickly? You can simply add in those attendance zones here as well. All right, so we've got our circle. We've drawn the detail of where we know that buyer wants to live. Now, one of the enhancements that they added that I really, really like is, let's say you got all the way to this step and you forgot to take out leases. And all of a sudden you're seeing, oh man, I got all these comps. They have nothing to do with my search. Remember, you can always bounce back to criteria. Just hit that criteria button. You can see what you've added. You can edit it from here. It makes it really, really easy. So all I want to do is I want to make sure all of my criteria is right. I've already used my map, but I can jump back to my map search if I didn't get any comps. Oh, one more thing I wanted to show you, just sort of popped in my head. If you got all the way to this step and you did your 1 mile radius, especially if you're in a rural area, here's a little tip. If you've got all the way to this step and you don't have any comps, but you don't really want to go in and put in 2 miles, because you know what happens then? Now you've got this huge radius and you got to filter out all these comps. Is there a way you can just expand your circle slightly? And the answer is yes. You can kind of just drag it open. A lot of people don't know you can do this. I thought I would show this too. So let's say you got all the way here, you have no comps because there's not a lot of inventory out there. You can always click into your shape. You can then pull your shape open just a little bit further. And I can see, okay, did that bring in some additional comps? And yes, it actually did. It brought in 2 additional comps I wouldn't have had but I didn't have to get 30 in my, if I put in 2 or 3 miles, I may have gotten way too many. So it's still staying as close as possible. Again, by just clicking into your circle, you open it up so that you can drag it open a little bit further. So hopefully that makes sense as well. All right, so let's run our search. We've got our comps. Now, really what you're shooting for in your CMA is 3 to 5 comps, closed comps. But remember, we also added active and pendings in here. I brought in a few more just because I want to expand my circle and show you a couple of different examples. I have OCD. I'll just admit to it. Every towel in my closet is the same color, folded the exact same way in a straight line. So when I see stuff like this, it's very hard for me. My brain does not work that way. So, couple quick tips. Two things. I like to sort these because I like to see my actives with my actives, my pending with my pending, my close with my close. So you can click on the column headings and you can simply sort them that way. Now I've got them in alphabetical order, actives with actives, close with close, pending with pending, right? Just makes sense. Another thing, another little tip here, and you don't have to do this. It's just something that makes me very happy. So I thought I'd pass it along to you. I have been so lucky. I've worked with so many great agents, and I've also worked with a few agents. If I never get another purchase agreement on my listings from them, I'm gonna be okay with that. So a lot of times, especially if you are showing properties, I kind of like to have the agent name in here. I've worked with so many great agents and I've had really great experiences. Thankfully, very few bad experiences, but I have some stories where I have literally placed 15 calls and getting them to answer their phone, and we're a day before closing. So, those agents, I'm not super excited to show again. So you can always add in your agent name on your active search results. So you could, like Robin Barnes, great agent, always answers her phone, always is willing to help other people. She helped my friend Tracy buy her home that she loves and is going to be there forever. So those types of agents, I like to be able to see them in my list. I like to be able to know who they are when I'm scheduling appointments. Not that I wouldn't show an agent who I've had a bad experience, but I might put them last on the list, not first. So I would want to show people like maybe Mario's listings, maybe Robin's listings, and maybe want to put those at the top so that I can show those first. So don't be afraid to customize your search results, is basically where I'm going with this. You can customize almost anything in Paragon. So I like to go to customize, fields. Again, these are all the fields, and one of the fields I would recommend that you add is agent name. You can even do agent with their phone number if you like. So all you have to do is find agent in the group list, and you can add that to your search results. Okay, so just a quick tip. So right now I've got my one active. Now, really, I would have added a little bit more detail in here because again, we're looking for around 3 to 5 comps. You can kind of get a mini breakdown right up here of your CMA numbers. I'm just going to grab a couple of these. I think I actually showed that home that Mario has listed. All right. So, and then I'm going to go down. I got my pending here. So I am going to grab those. Now, again, with my OCD, this is like an OCD nightmare because I only really want these 5, right? So here's another tip. Right up here is the checked box. Sorry about all that thunder and lightning in the background. Hope you guys aren't hearing that as loud as I'm hearing it here. So I've got those checked. Now what I want to do, I've got my mini breakdown here. What I want to do now is, obviously you want to go through them, by the way. Let me just put that in there. Really, our goal is to go through them and find the ones that are going to be most like our property. Things like school district, obviously very important. You can remember, you can add those things if they're not here. I think school district I have way over here at the end, but you can always grab that. If you don't want it way at the end, so you have to scroll over for it, remember, it's like an Excel spreadsheet. You can move it anywhere you want and it saves those preferences. Now it's hailing. This is unbelievable. So you can move that in your preferences so that that is toward the front. How does this, like the worst storm we've gotten all year? So you can move school district in the front, you can move area, all of that so that you can quickly see it. Okay, so where's the easy button, Colleen, that you talk about? So two quick things. Let's pretend for a moment, I'm going to show you the fancy CMA that you're going to want to do for most everybody using CloudCMA. It has an easy button. It's really simple. But we're going to pick on Robin again, and we're going to say Robin, I don't even know if Robin has a brother, but we're going to say Robin is going to go list her brother's home. Well, she already knows she has the listing, right? It's her brother. So she's not looking for the fancy wow report. She's just looking to show them, okay, here's some comparables. If you're not looking for the super fancy report, your first tip is under reports. In Paragon, a lot of people don't know this, there are all different types of reports to choose from. But one of the report options is CMA reports. So if Robin isn't looking for the fancy bells and whistles, I'm going to show you the fancy bells and whistles, so don't worry. Let's say Robin isn't looking for that. She already knows her brother is going to list with her, so there's no question. She's just going to click on the CMA Quick View. Now, what this does is it allows her to simply stack those selected properties up, and she can, let's say it has a lot of acreage or something that's not included here. She can even go to customize and add that particular field. So she can actually stack those properties up and highlight that feature. So right here, I can see all of the comparables. It happens to be 2 pages, all of the comparables that we chose, and she can simply stack them up and now present them to her brother. Maybe her brother doesn't even care. He's just flipping houses. He's calling and says, just tell me what it's worth, Robin. Well, in that case, there's another CMA report you can choose, and that is the CMA summary. That's just going to take the comps that Robin selected, and it's going to put them together. I can see the pendings. I can just see the breakdown. What's the average price per square foot? What's the average sold? What's the average list? All of that is now just broken down in a nice, easy report. So Robin can, with one click, just tell them what it's worth. The rest of us, we really want the bells and whistles, right? We want to impress and wow our seller. We want to bring in those custom pages. So that's when you're going to use CloudCMA. One more thing before we leave Paragon, I want to show you one more thing I add every single time I go on a listing appointment. And again, I'm proud to say, and I work full time at the MLS. I don't sell near what I used to. I think I've only sold six properties so far this year. But I also want to have the stats for the market of what's going on in their marketplace. So the market is a constant changing thing, right? And you want to show them why in this market they're probably going to want to list on the high side, right? They need to understand why would that be. If I'm giving them a price range, why do we want to list here instead of here? What's going on in your market? What are we looking at? We want to educate the sellers so that they do the right thing with the price too. So how do you do that? What I would recommend is go to your resources in Paragon. This is kind of your final prep step, if you will. I want to go to resources and I want to go into market stats. Now, don't worry, I am recording this class, so you're probably thinking, lady with the fuzzy hair, how am I going to remember all this? Well, don't worry, you're actually going to be able to go back and see this class. I'm going to tell you where you can find it. So if you miss anything or you have a question on something, you absolutely can jump back and you can fast forward to that part on exactly how I got here. So market stats is a whole class in itself, by the way. It's a cool class. You can post out onto social media. We show you how to use this and tie it in with a squeeze page. So when people click on it to find out what their home is worth, it immediately returns that lead to you with their contact information and their address of where they live. It's super cool. So if you haven't taken the market stats class, definitely take it. It's definitely worth it. However, what I want to just point out is the easy, fast button. I'm all about the easy and fast and making it more convenient. So we're going to look at fast stats today. Fast stats work like this. It's this simple. Find the county that you're listing the home in. Find the city that you're listing the home in, and you're done. That's how easy fast stats is. And fast stats is really set up so that in your stats program, all right, we're going to have to come back to fast stats in a second. So Fast stats, again, is really where you're getting the market stats side of your cloud CMA. And so, but how do you get the properties themselves? How do you get the comps that you just picked? How do you get those into your cloud CMA report? So I'm just going to jump back here for a second because we have all of our properties that we picked, right? And I'm going to change this report back to our regular view so that you can kind of see it just as if you opened it. I change it to our, let's see, here's our legacy. My little box here. All right, we'll use our legacy report. So we've got our comps that we've picked. We've, I think, picked a couple actives, couple pendings. And what I want to do now is I want to use the actions button so that I can pull those comps and I can take them directly into CloudCMA. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click my actions button. And you're going to see there's a whole lot of different actions that you can take. And a lot of people don't even know this actions button actually exists. So again, you're putting in your criteria, you're doing your map search, you've got all of your detail. We hit our search. We now have our results. I want to take these all and I want to conveniently put them, and I'm just going to pick a few here again, just to make it easy. Sort these. We want to sort them and we now want to pull them into our cloud CMA, but we don't want to have to do a lot of work. So we've got our actives, we've got our pending, we've got the ones that we want to use. I want to use our actions button and I want to pull those into CloudCMA. And there's a couple different options. There's a whole lot of options under the actions button, but the two that I want in this case from what I've selected, there's CloudCMA, which is a buyer tour. If you're showing buyers around, that's the one you would use. That's not what we want here. We want to do a traditional CloudCMA. So I'm going to hit CloudCMA and it's basically going to do all the hard work for me. In the old days, I remember, 20 years ago, we'd have to go, I used 7 different CMA programs. You'd have to go in, you'd have to hand type each one of these listing numbers, which is such a pain. I just want to take all of those and extract them directly from the MLS, and I want to put them right into my cloud account. Now, here's where it gets good. So the first thing we want to do is we want to give it a name. So I'm going to call this Report for Sally Seller. You can see it already brought over the MLS numbers, but here's the thing. Next to this is the quick and dirty. I would never use that. It's great for lead generation, but it has absolutely no value in doing a traditional CMA. I personally do not like it unless you're using it for the lead gen, which we'll talk about at the end. Next thing I want to do is I want to put in the address, but the nice thing about this, as soon as you start typing in the address, it's going to now quick fill that information for you. And the reason you want to use that is you can see it just filled out the bedrooms, bathrooms. It'll fill out square footage if it has it. You can always change it though. You can see this one didn't fill out square footage, so I'm adding that in. Remember how I said having that cover photo is really helpful? So I'm just going to use this one just for the sake of time. You can crop these. So if I wanted to, maybe I don't like that the garbage can is showing here, you can go ahead and you can crop that out. Maybe I want to make it a little more proportionate. So maybe I'm going to do that, make it a little bit like that. There we go, cut that garbage can out. So it allows you to use that BSNA photo that we looked at in the beginning, and it allows me to crop that and make a really nice cover page. So I'm going to go ahead and now click Fetch Listing. And what it's doing is it's pulling all that great information right over from Paragon into our CMA. Okay, this page, basically Cloud, super easy. It's these 4 tabs along the top. It's criteria, it's listings, it's customized, it's publish, and basically publish is just save. So there's really nothing you even have to do on that. Again, I apologize for all the background noise. The timing could not be worse. So under criteria, that was just basically the name that we gave it and we put in our address. But here's where it gets really good. And they've added something new here too that I want to show you. You can rearrange these in any order. I remember when I got my first listing appointment, my broker kept saying, Colleen, get that price low. It was a different market then, trust me. Get that price low, get that price low. So I went in, I had the lowest comps right out of the chute. And it was kind of funny because the wife was so offended that I almost didn't even get to finish my CMA. So sometimes it's putting your comps in the right order, right? So you can drag and drop these comps into the appropriate order if there's a comp that you want. I noticed here that I left a comp in that was way too high. I mean, I can clearly see that, and I just kind of grabbed a couple. So if you want to deselect a comp, you certainly can do that. That won't, and that now you don't have to start over. It's just deselected. If you want to review a comp a little further, you can actually go in, see all of the photos, all of the detail. But here's where it gets good. I used to, when I would do my CMAs, I'd take my CMA, right, and I'd have Post-its like all over it. Like, you know, this one didn't have central air and this one didn't have a garage. You could do the same thing using the notes category. So maybe I want to say only home and subdivision with no garage, or, you know, something along, helps if I spell it right, something along those lines. You can add in your own personal notes. Down here is where you can also add in adjustments. Now, I don't know if anybody uses adjustments, but sometimes having a positive or negative adjustment can be really helpful when you're trying to figure out why something sold for less or more. No garage, as an example. It's kind of off topic, but I don't know if anyone has actually used the Hanley Woods model adjustment feature in RPR. It is really cool. And I say that because more and more investors are actually using that. I'm not sure if anybody's actually interested in it, but RPR actually has an investment tool that you can put in a home improvement, and it's parcel based. Because obviously, think about it this way. If you were to put a new kitchen into a home, let's say in California, versus a new kitchen in my Richmond home, it might be a total different value, right? And so what they do is it's parcel based, and you can put in, and you know, I'm just going to show, instead of me telling you about it, I'm going to open it up and show it to you. So, and it's not normally part of this class, so I'm kind of giving you a quick help tutorial on this. RPR, you can log in. Let me explain. It's not a tool from the MLS. It's actually a NAR tool that you get for being a National Association of Realtor member. But if you're interested, you can go into Paragon under Resources and click the link to RPR. It just takes you to RPR, basically. RPR will look like this when you open it up. It is parcel based. And again, it's not normally part of this class, but I use it a lot and I really like it. So I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to type in the address for the property. So I'm going to do 41539 Wessel Drive, Sterling Heights. As you start typing, it will quick fill. I'm going to click on that address. Okay, here's where it gets good. So this, of course, is another place where you can find valuable heat maps for distressed properties. Thankfully, you know, we're not really seeing that yet, thankfully. Kind of gives you a couple pricing tours. This also has a CMA. Don't use this one, though. You can't be as specific as you can in the MLS. You can't dwindle down to brick. You can't dwindle down to exacts on this. You can see it says 2 baths. It's actually 1 full bath, 1 half bath. You can't be quite as specific as I like to be. So I don't use this for CMAs. However, I love this one tool. You click on refined value. Let's say that your house is the only house in the neighborhood that doesn't have a garage. Or let's use the other one. Let's use a kitchen value. They just did a major kitchen upscale remodel, cherrywood cupboards and granite countertops, and it kind of gives you an example of what they consider upscale too as well. Now, obviously, the older the remodel is, the less it's worth. So we're going to say that it was, we'll say last August, and it was 2022. and they put $15,000 into this remodel. So you know what happens, and you'll probably totally get this. They put $15,000 into the kitchen, and they say, Robin, you know what? I know you say the house is worth 250, but you know what? We put 15 grand into the kitchen remodel, and we think we should get 350 for it, right? Because they don't think logically sometimes, they're personally attached. So what you can do is you can type in the improvement or type in, the garage, things like that. You can click add improvement and it will give you a tangible number, and you can print this and you can actually put it in your CMA. So if they really want to know, okay, Colleen, we think that $15,000 improvement is actually worth $50,000, I can say, well, let's actually look at what we consider kind of the blue book for your home. That $15,000, and by the way, it looks beautiful, really is going to bring you on average about $7,500 value to your home. So it's a great way to talk them off the ledge if you need it. Again, you don't have to use this. It's just, I've never found a tool that did this, that was parcel based. And a lot of, like I said, investors are actually using this when they're trying to figure out their flips and their calculations. So it's a really cool tool. It's not really part of this class, but we went there anyway. So if you're trying to come up with an adjustment in your CMA where we were, this is a tool that you can do a positive or negative adjustment. So I could say no garage, and I could do a negative adjustment of 7,000 or whatever it happens to be, or you can do a positive adjustment. So keep in mind that's there if you need to adjust something that maybe makes it a little different. All right, and you can include that adjustment on its own separate page too. So it does some cool things there. So lastly, so I've got my comps up here at the top. You can set your price range. So maybe Robin has not seen the home yet, and she says, okay, the average is about 262. So we're going to give a price range of 260 to 270. Because remember, it's a cottage 3 hours away or whatever it happens to be. You can put in a suggested price range here for the consumer. It also has a net sheet. I'm going to be totally honest, I do not use the net sheet. I love the net out sheet in Transaction Desk because it auto calculates. If you do this one, you can save the items, but you always got to do the math. Again, not my strong point. So I use the one in Transaction Desk or in zip form. You can use the one in .loop. And that way it actually does that calculation. And then I just pull it into my CMA. Way more efficient, takes way less time. All right, so I've got the properties that I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to be adding here. Again, you could put your own suggested price range if you want. You can add a net sheet too if you want to put that in. Again, I'm not a huge fan of the one that's in here, but you can always pull one in from another program. I'm just following along. So really, if you did nothing on this page, that would be okay too. You really don't have to do anything. You're just kind of reviewing your comps. The third page is really your template. And here's a quick tip. Your template, if you set this up, because you're probably thinking, well, Colleen, this seems like a lengthy process. Well, actually, on average, my CMAs now take between 7 and 9 minutes because I've done this simple step. You want to set up your theme, what you want to be included, and just pull in your additional pages like your market stats and things like that. Once you do that, I think you're going to find that it is so simple because your layout or your template is already set up. It's just pulling in the properties and go. It's that simple. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure, if you've not gone in here before, that you have your company colors set up under theme. The last thing you want to do is be with ABC Brokerage and show up with the Remax balloon, right? You want to make sure you have the right company colors. I should mention that Remax and Real Estate One, if you're with either one of those, they've actually paid to have some beautiful marketing pieces done that you can pick from the drop down so that you see all their custom pages. It looks really nice. So you want to make sure, though, if you are, again, with ABC Brokerage and your company colors are blue and white, that you're not showing up with someone else's, like Century 21's theme, right? So you want to adjust your theme here. The layout is how you want the comps laid out. So if you want a short report, maybe you're going to print it. I generally don't print these anymore. I'm going to be honest. I just display them on my laptop with a seller. Now, if I'm maybe with an older seller I know that maybe isn't a super techie person, may print a copy then, which of course you can do, but I kind of like to use the interactive version now that I can present right in front of them. So that's a really easy, cool way to do that. So I like the photo with max data. That's my personal preference because it gives you more information from the MLS. It gives you the comments and the detail. You can set up multiple templates, by the way. As you can see, I was helping somebody named Cindy the other day. I set up a template for her. Colleen's awesome short CMA, Colleen's long CMA. You can set up a template of, if you've got all the pages you want, it looks really good. All you want to do is you want to save that template so you can use it. There's appraiser report. Some are already there for you, but you can always save yours as a new template and just give it a name. So we'll call this Robin Barnes super template. If I don't bump it, we'll call it Robin Barnes super template. You can call it whatever you like. All right, so jumping down. You can also rearrange these pages. So all you have to do is drag and drop them into where you want them. But here are some really good examples. I went in to my company page and all I did was simply copy and paste what we had on our website. Now it's there. Every single time I do a CMA, my company information is right there. It pops up. I don't have to do a thing to it. It's part of my template. Some examples though. One of the common, I think I have it in here, but let me just double check. One of the common questions that I think we get every single time we sit down with a seller is, Colleen, are you going to put my home on Zillow? Colleen, are you going to have it on Realtor.com? Where is it going to be displayed? I mean, how many times do we hear that, right? So what I did is I created a custom page, and you can make your own custom pages. All I did would say that my broker syndicates to over 400 sites. Here's the top ones. And I added this as a custom page. So I'm just going to add that into my report. So that way, when they ask me, I'm actually handling that objection way before it even comes up. And maybe I want to move that way up because that's one of their top questions, right? I want to have that way up at the top of my report, like next to what is a CMA. If you don't know what is on a particular page, because they have a lot of great marketing pages, if you will, all you have to do is click on the page and it will actually show you what that page contains. So if you don't know what's on a particular page, just click on the preview and it will show you. I kind of like this one because the average first-time seller, when they see that commission on the net out sheet, they go, "Ooh," right? Because they don't realize that there are two agents generally getting paid from that commission. Although we won't talk about commission today, but there's also brokerage fees. There's also expenses for selling the home. So I like this because it kind of addresses a lot of those things. Another situation that just happened to me that I wanted to include here because I think it comes up a lot. I had a call from an out-of-country investor, believe it or not. And this out-of-country investor said, Colleen, I hear everything is selling for record prices, and I want to make sure, that we get the most for this home. Unfortunately, this particular home, and I don't think I have it in here. Let me double check. This particular home had renters in it, and unfortunately, they had trashed the property. They had the carpet this is it. This particular home happened to be in Warren, and it had no C1. I didn't want to just tell this person who I had never met and I'm dealing with over the phone, right? I didn't want to tell him, well, I'm sorry, actually, this home is in really bad shape, right? Because it's an opinion. I'd rather show him the condition of the home. So I went to the home. I first grabbed the notice on the door that it had been tagged for no C of O. Many of the cupboards had been ripped off the walls, as you can kind of see here. There was actually water running over the floor in the laundry room. They had taken a lot of the plumbing, and it was not in the best of shape. Big holes in the walls. You can see the carpet. There was animals left in it was not a good, but how do you tell them that, right? I don't want to tell them. I want to show them. So what I did is I simply took photos of everything in the home and I included it in the CMA. So don't be afraid to think outside of the box with some of these. Stats, as I mentioned, here is that market stats. I apologize, I couldn't open it before because for whatever reason my PDF was locking up. But this shows exactly what was going on. So obviously the one I would use here would be Sterling Heights, but this shows exactly what's going on in the marketplace. So this is what we pulled for market stats. Right now, they were down 20, almost 21% in inventory in the market. What does that mean? Well, there's 127 homes on the market last year, 101 for this year. So we're looking at a deficit of 20%. Look what it does to our sales price, though. So are we seeing inventory and sales going up or going down? So I can bring that right in to my CMA to go over those market conditions. And I do that. I just listed a little house in Redford about a week ago. Thankfully, it's pending now. But same thing, I include that every single time that I am going to list a property, because I want them to see exactly what's going on when they purchase the home. I can show them, hey, you purchased it on VA financing 3 years ago. I want them to see that I have actually done my homework. If I want them to see what's going on in their stats, again, this is one for Chesterfield, 36% down. I just ran this last month. I ran it in July. 36% down right now in Chesterfield in inventory, 89 on the market last year, 57. This is a really easy report. And again, I just clicked on the city name to create it. Again, what's going on in our average sales price? Let's take a look. Because we're down almost 40% in inventory, it was 357 on average last year, 389 this year. Wow, these are definitely things that we want to reflect. A lot of people moving into Chesterfield, not enough inventory. So these are all custom pages, again, that you can easily bring in. Again, I've got the BS&A record, the real list record. I want to have all of those so that when I'm, showing them, I see you bought the home here, and I see this is what you paid for it. I want to have all of that easily right in the front of my CMA. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. By the way, to add in those custom pages, I'm going to show you how to pull them into Cloud. Here was that unpaid water bill. To add that stuff in, I just click on the plus and it floats right into my report. So think of it this way. Everything currently on your report is right here. Everything additional that you can add is going to be over here on the left. And these are all kind of subcategories. I like to also add all of the photos. I don't print them. If you're going to print them, don't do that. But I like to add in all of the photos because a lot of times they do want to be able to see, did Joe Schmagegi have a finished basement? Because I have a finished basement and I want to be able to go to those photos and compare. And so adding in those additional photos so they can see up to 99 photos if the agent put them in the MLS, I think that that's really huge. All right, so hopefully you're getting a couple good ideas and good examples of what you want to pull in your CMA. Again, I went a little off topic with the RPR, but hopefully you kind of even thought that that was helpful. The next thing is, how do you want to present your CMA? And there's several different ways. You could present it as a traditional PDF if you would like. Meaning you can go through it page by page. You can save it to your desktop. Makes it really, really simple to pull up and go through with the client. So it's just kind of personal preference on how you want to do that. But there's also, as I mentioned, a new way that you can also go through those things. So I'm just going to close out my PDF here real quick. I'm going to actually show you how you can go in. There we go. How we can go in and we can show this in an interactive format. Okay. So when I go to our report that we just created, there are two versions of that. There is the PDF version, and then there is the live version. The live version is brand new. When I say brand new, it's a couple months old now, but the live version does that thing that I mentioned, that you can stack up comps. You can see why they sold for less or why they sold for more. You can see if they had an additional bathroom or bedroom, but there's some really unusual things that we've wanted for a long time in here. So bear with me just a couple of moments. You can do a video resume in here, which I have not found in any other CMA program. So Robin could literally be standing in front of her sign. Her beautiful daughter could be taking a photo of her or a video of her on her, even her camera phone, talking about, my mom can help you as a first-time home buyer, and here's a testimonial, whatever you want. You can create that video resume and actually put it into your CMA. What makes this one different too is they were actually creating this when the pandemic broke out. So one of the first things they did was they integrated Zoom, Google Hangouts, Screen, which is the makers of Slack, Microsoft Teams, and Skype. So you can present this to someone in another state, another country, using live streaming services. As I mentioned, you can actually go in and put your video resume in. You can pick still the same way. You can pick, how you want to display the comps. You could go through, start the presentation and go through the whole thing with them. So it'll go through page by page. But really the biggest difference is in how the comps are displayed. This one is really cool. So watch this. This is something we've wanted to do for a long time. You can tell I get all excited about tech stuff, being kind of a techie person. But basically, this is stuff we've wanted to know. Why did this house close more? Well, maybe it's because it had a 29% larger lot size. Maybe it's because it had more square footage, an additional bathroom. Maybe this one had an attached garage and ours didn't. These are all things that we could very, very quickly see right from the comps. But that's not even my favorite part. What I really like here is, let's say that Robin is meeting with her seller, and Robin's a great agent, so she prepared her CMA a couple days ago. She's all ready. But Robin now says to the seller, here's what I think. And the seller says to Robin, puts her on the spot, well, Joe was cutting his grass yesterday. He told me he closed yesterday afternoon and he got la, 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 right? Now Robin's like, okay, well, let's take a look at that. I did your CMA 2 days ago, and if he closed yesterday, let's take a look at that particular comp. Now, sometimes it's not our fault as the agent. It's not Robin's fault that she didn't compare a 2-story to his brick ranch, but they don't know how these things are done, right? They don't know you're comparing apples to apples. So Robin may just want to discuss why that home wasn't a good comp. So here's the key. You're going to click on Map, and it assembles a live map which shows the comps, which is all well and good, but here's the trick. Click on the zoom in button, and you do want to zoom in close enough to the parcels. That's what just happened. You applied all of the MLS comps. So if he said, yeah, well, Joe Schmagegi, he's right over here off of Melanie, we can click on that comp. Robin can say, oh, well, I didn't actually choose Joe Schmagegi's because it's not a 2-story like yours is, or whatever it happens to be. Or maybe it did close yesterday, and Robin does think it's a good comp. With one click of this toggle, she's now added that comp into her live CMA, and it will be featured under comps. So we've just now added that to these comps. I'm going to scroll over so that you can see that. So the idea is we just added that Melanie comp because it wasn't there previously, but it was a good comp. And we did our CMA 2 days ago and it closed yesterday. So we're able to actually do those adjustments on the fly. And I love that because a lot of times they're not viable comps that they're asking about. Well, Joe over here, he got 300,000 for his home. Yeah, well, he had 5,000 square feet. You have 1,000, but you want to be able to have that conversation on the fly, right? Okay, so let's now take a look. So that is the interactive version. Again, you're making it the exact same way, no difference than the process that we just went through. So you're creating it the exact same way. The only difference is you're clicking on the live view. All right, but let's take a look, and I'm going to take a look at the one that I prepared previously so that you can see it. Let's take a look at the PDF view. All right, fingers crossed that this one doesn't lock up on me. The PDF version is just where you can go page by page through it. Now, again, if you have an older client, you may want to print the PDF. I personally just kind of like to have it saved on my desktop. I prefer the interactive version to be completely honest, because here it is. I prefer the interactive version because if I need to make a change, I have the freedom to do that. So this is an actual CMA that I just presented. Thankfully, they did choose me as their listing agent, are now pending and hopefully closing next week. So when you're going through, see how having your template already made up. I have their listing ticket of when they bought it. They bought it in 2019, so I've got that handy. I've got their realist record. Darn it. Sorry, my PDF has been acting up, and I think it's because I did some updates, and it's just not being my friend today. Shows me their lot size. Here is their paid taxes, and I found out that they hadn't paid their summer taxes. So these are things that I want to include. Here's that market stat. Again, I did that by just clicking on the city name. They're down almost 10% in inventory. Average sales price, look at that, 166 to 180 on this particular house. And again, this was just 2 weeks ago. But isn't it great when you can educate your sellers on what's going on in the market and why they might want to be on that high end? Maps of the comparables. But what I really love is how the comparables are stacked up. Here we've got the comparables with those interior photos. So if they say, hey, does Joe Schmagegi have a finished basement? I can show, if that agent put in interior photos, I can show that here. By the way, I have this one selected to only include the first 12, but your options are include all 99, include 12, or just include 1. So it kind of depends on if you're printing it or not. So anyway, some good examples. So it's really just, how do you want to present your CMA? Do you want to present it in that live interactive view? Or do you want to present it in that PDF view? So by now, you're probably thinking, lady with the fuzzy hair, you've talked my ear off. Remember, it's about 7 to 9 minutes on average to create what we just looked at. But I do want to show you one more thing where you can find this recording. So let me jump over there for just a moment. Inside of Paragon, one of the things that Debbie Fajardo has done a great job as our director of education, she says, you know what? We give you all this great information, and then you go to do a CMA 2 months from now, and you're like, what that lady with the fuzzy hair say to start doing again? So it's kind of hard to remember. So what we did is we created a YouTube library. This class will be featured as CloudCMA, and the date will be after it. So you can go back and re-watch this recording. If you've missed anything, you can watch it again. Here's where you find it, the easy button, if you will. Under resources, you will find an education section. We have them as recorded webinars. All you have to do is go to the playlist section. It opens up our YouTube channel, if you will. And there's classes for everything. If you haven't checked out our brand new free member benefit, Kubacasa, there is a class there on how to download the app and get the, you get up to 5,000 square feet free for a floor plan. It does 2D and 3D renderings, all kind of cool stuff as your new member benefit. But if you were looking for today's class, you're simply going to float down to CloudCMA. I probably blew past it. Did I go past it? No, creating CMAs right here. You can click on the full playlist. You'll see the date, today's date, right after it. You can fast forward right to the part that you need. If you're I am a video person, I'm going to be honest. Reading a checklist when I'm already frustrated, not helpful for me. But if you are a checklist person and you want something you can just follow along, you can also go into Paragon under the MLS Documents section. We created an education file. It actually says handouts and cheat sheets. All you have to do is click into that. I give you a little tip. Type in the product you're looking for, because we have 90 of them in there now. Just type in the words cloud. It'll give you all the CloudCMA cheat sheets. Let's say that you want to know how to create a CloudCMA from scratch. You can simply just click on it. It creates a PDF. and it will show you step by step on how to do that one specific thing. The last thing I want to show you is those outside documents, your BS&A report, your real list report, those types of items. How do you get them in? I showed you how to add them to your CMA, but you're probably thinking, lady with the fuzzy hair, how did you get them in there? Well, great question. It's a simple upload process, but I do want to show you that as we wrap up. I promise I'll only keep you one more minute. I know I'm a couple minutes over. That's pretty good with the storm and having a little sketchy internet. So when you're ready to add those custom outside documents, maybe Robin has a great marketing piece about her, her team and her volume and how long she's been doing this and customer testimonials, things like that. You can very easily add those into any CMA. However, some, like Robin's team selling and her testimonials, those she's going to want to put in her template because she wants them there every single time. But what about those ones that are specific to the property, like real lists, like BS&A, like their sales record in the MLS of when they bought it? How do you get those in there? So that's our last thing that we want to wrap up with. So when you're in your CMA account, you're going to find a little icon. And I apologize, your GoToWebinar button might be covering it. It's up at the top right. You can see my little picture here. If you click on that, one of the things that you're going to see there, my little GoToWebinar box, is custom pages. So if Robin wants to bring in a custom page talking about her team, or she wants to talk about those testimonials or the real list record, she can easily bring in any outside document into her CMA. There's two different ways. If you don't have a document and you just want to create a company page or a resume, something like that, there's some examples that are actually set up for you. All you have to do is click on the pencil icon. You can cut and paste. You can add links. You can add video clips. You can do all kind of stuff. And those are really just kind of templates at the top. But what I want to do is I want to add my custom pages. Remember, I talked about the photos of the renter house, market stats. Remember, I talked about the worksheet, the seller's net out sheet that I had done in Transaction Desk, and I basically just pulled it into my CMA. All of those things are really great examples of what you want to bring into your CMA. How do you do that? At the very bottom, it's so simple. At the bottom, and I've got quite a few in here. I could pare this down. I apologize. You can see I teach a lot of classes. When I'm ready to bring those in, I simply click Upload PDF. I'm going to find the document I want to bring in. I'm going to click on it from my computer, and you can see just like that, we brought in the market stats. Remember, when you're ready to add them to that, especially if they're specific to a specific property, like the real list for Redford or whatever it happens to be, all you're going to do is go into that CMA. Under what do you want to add, you're going to customize it. You'll find custom pages right over here. Simply click on the custom page you want to add. And of course, it's going to float right into the bottom. Of course, you can move it anywhere you want in the list. All right, I hope you found that helpful. I want to thank you so much for your time. I do apologize that I did run a couple minutes over. Great to see your name at least here, Robin. Quite a few names. Thanks, Chris, for joining me today. I know Chris teaches this class a lot too. I appreciate your time. I hope that this was helpful in creating CMAs, and happy selling, everybody. Go get them. We need some listings, so go list some properties. Have a great day, everybody.